A man charged with killing his fiancée heading to court today for a custody hearing for the couple's one-year-old daughter. Fox 31 in Denver reports the hearing was scheduled before Kelsey Berreth disappeared. Surveillance video shows Berreth and her daughter on Thanksgiving at a supermarket outside Colorado Springs. Police say her fiancé, Patrick Frazee, exchanged custody of their daughter that day. Last week, police arrested Frazee on murder charges. They say he likely killed Berreth in her home. Investigators still have not found her body. With that, we bring in Alex Little, criminal defense and litigation attorney, former assistant U.S. attorney. Alex, good to see you here. Which side of this case, looking at the fact pattern, would you rather have?
Well, I mean, the prosecutors appear to have a strong case. They've charged him already. They've also charged solicitation of murder, which is a charge that suggests that he was working in concert with someone else. If they know enough to charge those two things, I think it's going to be a case that they will eventually be able to win. But anytime you have a murder case where you haven't found the body of the person who's deceased, it is a very difficult case.
You point out the solicitation of murder charge, and there was a comment by one Colorado law enforcement official saying it's very possible that others could be charged in this. You point out there's not a body. How do you prove murder until you prove the person's dead?
You know, it's difficult. I had a colleague back in Washington, D.C. who did a string of these cases, and she was phenomenal at it. You have to build a circumstantial case. You have to show the steps that took you as a prosecutor to determine there was a death. And there could be all sorts of things. You know, someone who is usually in contact with family and friends who drops off the face of the earth, well, it's just not reasonable to believe that that person has just decided to move to Fiji. That's just not how it works. So you have to take pieces of evidence. Maybe it's a drop of blood. Maybe it's something that usually would happen that doesn't happen. And you slowly build the case that that person's not here because they're dead and not just because they've gone away.
What do you make of now this interagency operation between the FBI and then police, I believe, out in Idaho, where her phone pinged 800 miles away? There in Gooding, Idaho, pinged on November 25th, trying to search presumably for evidence, they say, but obviously it could also be trying to search for her body.
It could be. I think the fact that the cell phone was seen 800 miles away, I mean, you know, digital evidence can show so much. And here we know at least her cell phone traveled 800 miles. That could have traveled with the killer. It could have traveled on her body. It's unclear at this point. But the fact that there's an interagency investigation is not too surprising. There's different states involved. The FBI now is involved. But it also suggests that perhaps, particularly with the solicitation charge, that there is some sort of, you know, conspiracy involving interstate wires. Maybe there were communications, there was a hiring of a hitman. Those sort of things could be at play because there is the FBI involved.
Conceivably, they have some kind of evidence if they say they believe that she was killed inside her own home. So much of this case is sealed, though, which is unusual in a way, because depending on the state, in Florida, you get almost everything when somebody's charged. Colorado, you get so very little. I know you've gone through the filings. Anything you've been able to glean out, details that weren't redacted that you found salient either as a prosecutor or a defense attorney?
Not yet, but I will say the judge has pushed back from sort of further sealing. So I suspect particularly on the 31st, there's another court date. We'll learn a lot more there. The fact that there was a charge of solicitation is obviously important, but you know, they try to be very protective of a future jury who's going to hear this case that doesn't want to have to deal with what the news coverage has been. So that's what the judge is trying to do by keeping this sealed.
And I think the defense were already making motions about pretrial publicity here even before
they're very concerned about that.
What do you make of this? Fox 31 in Denver, KDVR, our affiliate there, reporting that this custody hearing was scheduled before Kelsey Berreth disappeared. We're now in the end of December. She disappeared around Thanksgiving. So this would be 6 weeks or so before this hearing is when she disappeared, and then at least in the interim time, the fiance, now the accused murderer, took custody of the child.
Well, we've known all along from the first time he explained his side of the story, which was, you know, I saw her on Thanksgiving, we exchanged our child. There was clearly some sort of custody issue there. It suggests all sorts of motive. There could have been a dispute between the two of them about the child. You know, unfortunately, these are tragic cases, and sometimes people go to, you know, really extreme ends to resolve situations like this.
All right, Alex, appreciate your insight as always. A lot more to come out on this case and break it down.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.